Good morning, it's the second day of September today. I'm Chris Tankey from the Brisbane Revival Fellowship, and we're here to bring you the daily post today, some scriptures and some thoughts and some ideas that we hope will help you through the day. We begin with the scripture as usual. Today it comes from Revelation 22 and verse 12. And behold, I come quickly, and my reward is with me to give every man according as his work shall be. If you're reading the the Bible in a year, you need to do today read Psalms 137, 138 and 139 and 1 Corinthians chapter 13. The thoughts for the day. If knowledge can create problems, it is not through ignorance that we can solve them. It is easier to fight for one's principles than to live up to them. Dwell not upon thy weariness, thy strength shall be according to the measure of thy desire. The motivational thought for the day: don't let what you can't do interfere with what you can do. And on this day, in the year 31 BC, a naval force commanded by Mark Antony and including a squadron of ships supplied by Egyptian Queen Cleopatra was defeated at the Battle of Actium by Roman legions under the command of Augustus Caesar. In 1666 on this day, a fire ravishes the city of London. It became known as the Great Fire of London. In 1898, today was the day that the machine gun was first used in a battle. In 1901, US President Theodore Roosevelt made his famous remark regarding American foreign policy when he said that America should, quote, speak softly and carry a big stick, unquote. In 1945 on this day, the formal Japanese surrender to the Allies at the end of World War II was signed on board the American battleship the Missouri. In 1969, the first automatic teller machine in the United States was installed in the Rockville Center in New York. And in 2015, Earth's trees number just over 3 trillion according to a study in Nature by Thomas Crowther of Yale University. The personal story of the day is entitled Not Very Tasty. The worst meals I've ever had to eat were my own words. Sometimes we let our emotions jump out ahead of our thinking. The second we shoot off our mouths, it's impossible to stop that bullet. And every culture warns of the damaging effects of a loose tongue. The boneless tongue, so small and weak, can crush and kill, declares the Greek. The tongue destroys a greater horde, the Turk asserts, than does the sword. A Persian proverb wisely saith, a lengthy tongue an early death. Or someone takes this form instead, don't let your tongue cut off your head. The tongue can speak a word whose speed, say the Chinese, outstrips the steed. The Arab sages said in part, the tongue's great storehouse is the heart. From Hebrew was the maxim sprung, thy feet should slip, but ne'er the tongue. The sacred writer crowns the whole, who keeps the tongue doth keep his soul. Death and life are in the power of the tongue, and they that love it shall eat the fruit thereof. Comes from Proverbs 18 and verse 21. So what's on your menu today? Will it be peaches and cream or sour grapes? Every comment, remark, slur and quip will be setting your own table before the world. The devotional thoughts of the day. The first is entitled The Treasures of Life, and the scripture comes from Luke chapter 12 and verse 15, with further references from Luke 12 and verses 13 to 34. A man's life consisteth not in the abundance of the things which he possesseth. Jesus' warning against greed is a lesson that every generation needs to learn. In a recent survey, people were asked what they would be willing to do for certain amounts of money. 65% of people surveyed said that they would live on a deserted island for a year for $1 million, while 30% were willing to spend 6 months in jail for a crime they didn't commit for $1 million payoff. 24% of respondents said that for $3,000 they would reveal a friend's deep secret that they had promised to keep. Here's another question that could have been on the survey. How much money would it take for you to risk alienating your family? The man who came to Jesus one day with a complaint against his brother needed to consider this question. There was a dispute about the family inheritance, but Jesus wisely refused to be dragged into the middle of this domestic squabble. Instead, the Lord used the man's request to teach a vital lesson about greed and life's true riches. Jesus' story about the rich but foolish farmer is a good example. He painted the picture of the farmer's greedy heart and then drove home his point. People who love their stuff rather than loving God are making a spiritually fatal decision, because they will face God someday as their judge. Greed is disastrous because it turns the temporary things of this life into a false god that demands worship. Yet it gives back only sorrow and loss for all the devotion. But what an exciting alternative Jesus offers. When we love and trust him, God becomes our loving Father who knows what we need to live and provides it with delight. The issue is not food, clothing or shelter, but the human heart. Jesus finished his teaching on greed by warning us that our hearts will follow our treasure. So we need to be sure we are treasuring God and his kingdom more than anything else. The second thought is entitled Toward Jerusalem. The scripture from Matthew 16 and verse 21. From that time forth began Jesus to show unto his disciples how that he must go unto Jerusalem and suffer many things of the elders and chief priests and scribes, and be killed, and be raised again the third day. Peter's confession of Jesus as the Messiah initiated Jesus' teaching to his disciples concerning what sort of Messiah he was and what this would require of him. This was new for them. They could scarcely believe that Jesus would suffer, die, and be raised up on the third day. This was a very different picture than that of the Son of David, ruling and reigning from a throne in Jerusalem. The entire population was familiar with that idea. Many wanted to use force to secure a kingly position for Jesus and then authoritatively march towards Jerusalem to expel the Romans. People still remembered how the Maccabees had cast out foreign oppressors and temporarily restored Jewish independence. Maybe this could recur. After all, Jesus fulfilled all the supernatural claims the scriptures attributed to the Messiah. But to die in Jerusalem? That was something new. Of course, various prophets had died in Jerusalem, but they had never claimed to be the Messiah. And Jesus added that he would rise from the dead. The disciples heard what Jesus said, yet they did not hear. They listened to his claim, but they did not understand. After his resurrection, they remembered that he had said that he would rise again, but at the moment, this truth was as clear as fog. Only the mouth of Jesus witnessed that it was true. Fully submitted to God's will, Jesus turned towards Jerusalem to prepare himself for what was to come. A light-hearted moment for today. An independent woman started her own business. The business grew because she was A very good businesswoman, smart and diligent. And she realised eventually that she needed to hire an attorney or a counsel for the company. So she put an ad in the paper, and she got a lot of applicants. And she had one applicant who came in, and she said to this guy, "I'm sure you can understand in a business like this, personal integrity is very, very important. So, are you an honest lawyer?" And the young man replied, "Honest, honest. Let me tell you something about honest. I'm so honest that my dad lent me $15,000 for my education, and I paid back every penny as soon as I finished my first case." "Oh, that's impressive," said the woman. "What sort of case was that?" He squirmed a little bit and said, "Well, my dad sued me for the money." The facts of the day. There are about 142,000 recognised species of moths, and scientists estimate that there are thousands more yet to be discovered. In early America, simple wooden beds and straw mattresses were the rule in all but the wealthiest of homes. American inns during the Revolutionary War were not lush or comfortable, and an innkeeper would think nothing of requesting a guest to share his bed with a stranger when accommodation became scarce. The closing thought for today. Lord, what can I do to grow and be more useful? We thank you for joining us this morning. We hope that you've enjoyed and benefited from the Daily Post, and we look forward to your company again tomorrow morning. Have a blessed day. Bye for now.